If you walk into any modern university, you will find a strict wall separating the humanities from the hard sciences. We operate on the assumption that poetic imagination and logical reasoning are opposing forces. This division was institutionalized over centuries. In the 17th century, decrees by Louis XIV formally separated letters and sciences into distinct academic buildings. By the mid-20th century, the British chemist and novelist C.P. Snow codified this fracture in his lecture The Two Cultures, describing a world where literary intellectuals and scientists can no longer communicate. Modern pop psychology even mapped this schism onto human anatomy, promoting the theory that the brain's left hemisphere controls logic, while the right governs free-flowing creativity. The historical figure most often blamed for building this logical prison is Aristotle. As the ancient inventor of the syllogism, he is frequently stereotyped as the ultimate rationalist hall monitor, the philosopher who banished emotion to enforce left-brain supremacy. Accepting this rigidly divided view of Aristotle means misinterpreting the roots of Western thought and the mechanics of human cognition. The image of Aristotle as the guardian of a logic-only worldview is the result of a historical accident. It does not reflect his actual philosophy. In his authentic framework, poetics, rhetoric, dialectic, and logic are not separate competing disciplines. They form a single, cohesive science. The philosopher Olavo de Carvalho refers to this as the theory of the four discourses. Human discourse is a single unified faculty that actualizes in four distinct ways. These four modalities do not represent separate types of language. Instead, they form an ascending, interdependent scale of human credibility and intention. Recognizing this unity is the only way to read Aristotle correctly. It forces us to shift our understanding of scientific truth from an isolated absolute to a deeply cultural, uniquely human process. To see where the fracture happened, we trace back to the 1st century BCE. Aristotle's manuscripts were left as a disorganized posthumous collection of scrolls. The monumental task of organizing the definitive edition fell to an editor named Andronicus of Rhodes. Andronicus applied a rigid categorization methodology. He forced the text to match Aristotle's theoretical division of the sciences, sorting them into four distinct buckets: introductory, theoretical, practical, and technical. Here is the fatal error. Lacking obvious works for the technical bucket, he forcibly stripped poetics and rhetoric away. He banished them, leaving logic and dialectic alone to form the organon. The divide fracturing the modern university was accidentally invented by a librarian's compulsion for neat categorization. Historical forces immediately compounded Andronicus's mistake. With the extinction of Greek democracy, the practical need for public orators vanished. Rhetoric turned into an obsolete, formalistic study, ignored by true philosophers. Poetics suffered a more literal disappearance. The text vanished from European circulation entirely until it was rediscovered in the 16th century, rendering it totally absent from medieval thought. Consequently, the entire Western Aristotelian tradition, from the early Christian era straight through to the Renaissance, was built completely blind to both poetics and rhetoric. Eventually, dialectic was demoted as a minor science, leaving formal analytic logic suspended in total isolation as the sole remaining instrument of the Aristotelian tradition. The version of Aristotle taught, praised, and attacked today is a historical ghost. It is a heavily amputated schematic, missing the foundational half of its operational code. If we discard this broken historical timeline, we can rebuild Aristotle's true, unified architecture of truth from the outside in. The outermost ring is poetics. It deals with the possible. To engage with it, the audience must relax their strict criteria for truth to grasp human experiences through imagination. Stepping inward, we reach rhetoric, dealing with the plausible. The listener acts as a judge, making practical, real-world decisions based on common societal beliefs. The third modality is dialectic, moving to the probable. This requires active, cooperative participation to rigorously test, attack, and refine those common beliefs through dialogue. Finally, we reach the core, analytic logic. In this realm of irrefutable certainty, a student receives a linear, mathematical demonstration based on premises already proven true. This model operates on strict structural dependency. The inner rings cannot exist without the outer rings. You cannot establish what is mathematically certain without first testing what is probable. You cannot test the probable without a foundation of what is plausible, and you cannot define the plausible without first imagining what is possible. In this complete framework, scientific certainty is not a standalone absolute. It is the highly refined, microscopic endpoint of human imagination and social consensus. The four discourses map directly onto Aristotle's bedrock theory of how the human brain acquires knowledge. Aristotle argued that cognition begins with the senses. The mind must first gather external sensory data and organize it into fantasy, or images, grouped by resemblance. Only after these images are organized in the imagination can the intellect use them to extract abstract concepts and build scientific reasoning. The individual mind cannot reach abstract scientific thought without passing through imagination and simple apprehension. Likewise, a civilization cannot achieve scientific certainty without traversing the poetic and rhetorical discourse that grounds it. This integrated model resolves a historical paradox identified by the philosopher Eric Weil. Aristotle, the undisputed father of formal analytic logic, almost never used it in his own scientific treatises. Analytic logic does not actually generate new knowledge. It is an empty vessel, a tool used merely to verify conclusions that have already been reached. To find the truth, Aristotle relied on dialectic. By pitting conflicting hypotheses against one another, it acts as the true logica inventoris, the logic of discovery. Aristotle even built in a fallback mechanism. If an analytic, logical demonstration fails its proof, the thinker is immediately kicked back out to the dialectical ring to renegotiate their core premises. Isolating logic from the rest of the discursive spectrum strips it of its ability to discover anything new, reducing science to a sterile, closed-loop system. Attempting to create a purely logical language, stripped of human intention, is an alienating reification. Aristotle's pursuit of wisdom, or sapientia, could never be divorced from the moral and cultural intentions of the speaker. The ultimate goal of Aristotelian philosophy transcends mere scientific logic to reach the apex of cultural and intellectual expression. This apex is Sophia, or wisdom, achieved through gnosis gnoseos, the knowledge of knowledge itself. This self-awareness is achieved only at the exact moment a thinker looks back and comprehends the entire unified trajectory they just traveled, from the boundless realms of poetics straight through to the pinpoint precision of logic. True scientific rationalism is not achieved by destroying the poetry and rhetoric of the humanities. It is achieved by recognizing them as its foundational, necessary roots.